Karen's voice could shatter glass, and on that sweltering August afternoon, it nearly did. The whole neighborhood knew her tantrums, but nobody expected her to hurl a mailbox into the street like a deranged Olympian. It started innocently enough, or so it seemed. The sun baked our quiet cul-de-sac, where kids' bikes lay scattered and sprinklers hissed lazily. I was sipping iced tea on my porch, watching the world go by, when the mail truck rumbled up. Tom, our mailman, was a saint, always a wave, always a smile. Even when delivering Karen's endless catalogs for weight loss shakes she never used. But today, Karen was waiting for him, her bulk blocking the sidewalk like a human barricade. She'd been stewing for weeks, convinced Tom was sabotaging her mail because her coupons arrived late. Never mind that she'd once screamed at him for ringing her doorbell too loudly. Karen didn't need reasons. She needed enemies. "You," she bellowed, her voice slicing through the humid air. Tom froze mid-step, letters slipping from his hands. "You're hiding my packages again, aren't you?" Her chins wobbled as she jabbed a finger at him, her floral muumuu flapping like a warning flag. I leaned forward, my tea forgotten. This was going to be a show. Tom, bless him, tried to stay calm. "Ma'am, I deliver what's assigned. If something's missing, you can call the post office." His tone was even, but his eyes darted to the truck, like he was calculating an escape. Karen wasn't having it. She stomped closer, her flip-flops slapping the pavement, and snatched a handful of envelopes from his bag. "These are mine," she shrieked, tearing one open. A coupon for discount pizza fluttered to the ground. "This is 2 days late. You're stealing from me." Across the street, Mrs. Larson, the nosy retiree who'd once reported me for planting non-regulation tulips, peeked from her porch, clutching her phone. Next door, Jake, a college kid home for the summer, stepped out, his jaw dropping. The cul-de-sac was now an arena, and Karen was the gladiator nobody rooted for. Tom raised his hands, palms out. "Ma'am, you can't touch federal property. That's a crime." His voice wavered, but he stood his ground. Karen laughed, a harsh, guttural sound that made my skin crawl. "Crime? I'll show you a crime." She spun around, her eyes locking on my mailbox, a sturdy metal box I'd installed after the last one rusted. Before anyone could blink, she waddled over, gripped the post, and yanked. The screws groaned, then gave way. With a grunt, she heaved the mailbox into the street, where it landed with a sickening crunch, spilling my bills and a birthday card from my mom. I was on my feet now, heart pounding. "Karen, what the hell?" I shouted, but she didn't even glance my way. She was back on Tom, screaming about incompetent government workers and her rights. Tom's face was red, not from anger, but from the sheer absurdity of it all. He fumbled for his radio, muttering something about calling his supervisor. That's when Karen made her fatal mistake. She shoved him, not hard, but enough to make him stumble, dropping his bag. Letters scattered like confetti, and the neighborhood went dead silent. Mrs. Larson was already dialing 911. Jake was filming on his phone, probably live-streaming to his buddies. I wanted to intervene, to drag Karen back to her over-decorated McMansion, but my feet were glued to the porch. This was karma unfolding in real time, and I wasn't about to interrupt. The police arrived in under 10 minutes, 2 officers stepping out of a cruiser with the weary look of people who'd dealt with Karens before. Tom was picking up letters, his hands shaking, while Karen ranted about her stolen mail. The older officer, a grizzled guy named Martinez, listened for about 10 seconds before cutting her off. "Ma'am, you damaged federal property and assaulted a postal worker. That's serious." Karen's face went from red to purple. "Assault? I barely touched him. He's lying." But Tom wasn't lying. And Jake's video, which he eagerly showed the officers, caught every second. The mailbox toss, the shove, the tirade. Mrs. Larson chimed in, her voice dripping with glee. "She's been terrorizing this street for years. Last month, she yelled at my grandson for riding his bike too close to her lawn. I stayed quiet, but my ruined mailbox spoke for itself, lying crumpled in the street like a fallen soldier." The officers cuffed Karen, who wailed like she was being sent to the guillotine. "This is a conspiracy. You're all jealous of me," she screamed as they led her to the cruiser. Jealous? Of her tacky lawn gnomes and her endless complaints? The thought was laughable, but nobody was laughing. Tom looked exhausted, gathering the last of the letters. Jake pocketed his phone, smirking. Mrs. Larson was already gossiping with another neighbor who'd wandered over. And me? I was just staring at my mailbox, wondering how much it'd cost to replace. The fallout came fast. By evening, Jake's video was all over the neighborhood group chat, racking up views on X. Comments poured in. Typical Karen. She's finally getting what she deserves. Poor mailman. The post office didn't mess around. Damaging a mailbox is a federal offense, and assaulting a postal worker? That's a felony. Karen was hit with a $1,500 fine for the mailbox and faced charges for the shove. Her husband, a quiet guy who avoided her drama, posted bail, but the damage was done. The neighborhood had turned on her. Days later, I saw Tom delivering mail again, his smile a little dimmer, but still there. I offered him a cold soda, and he took it gratefully. She's not the first, won't be the last, he said, shaking his head. But man, that was something. I nodded, glancing at my new mailbox, a cheap temporary one until I could afford better. You okay? I asked. He shrugged. Just doing my job. Karen's house went quiet after that. Her car stayed in the driveway, and her blinds were always drawn. Rumors swirled she was selling the house. She was countersuing the post office. She was starting a blog about postal corruption. I didn't care. The street felt lighter without her stomping around, glaring at kids or yelling at delivery drivers. Mrs. Larson claimed victory, saying her 911 call saved the neighborhood. Jake got a few hundred followers from his video. And me? I got a new mailbox and a story nobody would believe if they hadn't seen it. But the real lesson wasn't about Karen's meltdown or the fine she'd pay. It was about the quiet people like Tom, who keep the world running despite the Karens of the world. It was about the neighbors who, for all their petty squabbles, came together to call out nonsense when it went too far. And it was about the fact that actions have consequences, even for someone who thought she was untouchable. Karen's reign of terror ended not with a bang, but with a crumpled mailbox and a pair of handcuffs. And for the first time in years, our cul-de-sac felt like home again. The end.